welcome to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill, and I'm here with Julie, and this week we're going to talk about audiobooks that might be good for a road trip, in case you have one coming.
And the audiobooks we are presenting are on CD, so you will need a CD player to listen to them, either if you have one at home or in your car for your road trip. And there are other options that we offer for listening to audiobooks. If you check out the Hoopla app, Overdrive, and the Libby apps, they also have audiobooks in them.
Okay, so my first one is a classic. I have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. In this autobiographical novel, it's an evocative American classic. The story centers on Esther Greenwood, a beautiful, brilliant, and successful woman coming to terms with her mental illness. Plath masterfully draws the reader into Esther's breakdown with such intensity that Esther's insanity becomes completely real and even rational, as probable as accessible as an experience of going to the movies. Such deep penetration into the dark and harrowing corners of the psyche is an extraordinary accomplishment that has made The Bell Jar a haunting American classic. This book is read by Golden Globe-winning actress Maggie Gyllenhaal. Her narration successfully captures Esther's journey in shifting psychological states. So that's my first one, a good classic.
And my first pick is Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad. This was an Oprah's book club selection in 2016, and it is being turned into a web-based series for release next year. This audiobook lasts 11 hours, and it is read by Ronnie Turpin. So in this book, Cora is a slave on a cotton plantation in Georgia. Life is hell for all the slaves, but especially bad for Cora, an outcast even among her fellow Africans. She is coming into womanhood where even greater pain awaits. When Caesar, a recent arrival from Virginia, tells her about the Underground Railroad, they decide to take a terrifying risk and escape. Matters do not go as planned, though they manage to find a station and head north. They are continuously being hunted. Like the protagonist of Gulliver's Travels, Cora encounters different worlds at each stage of her journey. Hers is an odyssey through time as well as space. As Colson Whitehead brilliantly recreates the unique terrors for Black people in the pre-Civil War era, his narrative seamlessly weaves the saga of America from the brutal importation of Africans to the unfilled promises of the present day. This book was described as a kinetic adventure of one woman's ferocious will to escape the horrors of bondage and a powerful meditation of the history we all share.
Wow. So my next one, you might have heard of this or maybe not. It's The Cuckoos Calling by Robert Galbraith. This is the first adult crime novel written by J.K. Rowling under the pseudonym of Robert Galbraith. It features Camoran Strike, a private investigator who lost his leg in Afghanistan. Camoran is barely scraping by as a private investigator. Strike is down one client and creditors are calling. He also has just broken up with his longtime girlfriend and is living in his office. Then John Bristow walks through the door with an amazing story. His sister, the legendary supermodel Lula Landry, known to her friends as the Cuckoo, famously fell to her death a few months earlier. The police ruled it a suicide, but John refuses to believe that. The case plunges Strike into the world of multi-millionaire beauties, rock star boyfriends, and desperate designers, and introduces him to a variety of pleasure, enticement, seduction, and delusion known to men. This recommendation came from a physical therapist that I know, who she listened to the whole series on CD like this, and she highly recommended it. She said it was better than reading the books. So
I listened to that one and I enjoyed that one. So that's another thumbs up.
Sometimes the narration makes all the difference.
It does. And my second pick is At Home, a short story of private life by Bill Bryson. This is also read by Bill Bryson, and this audiobook is longer. This is 16 and a half hours. So Bill Bryson and his family live in a Victorian parsonage in a part of England where nothing of any great significance has happened since the Romans decamped. Yet one day he began to consider how very little he knew about the ordinary things of life that he found in his comfortable home. So to remedy this, he formed the idea of journeying about his house from room to room to write a history of the world without ever leaving his house. So with humor and a knack for unearthing the extraordinary stories behind the seemingly commonplace, he examines how everyday items, things like ice, cookbooks, glass windows, salt and pepper, transform the way people live today, and how houses evolved around those new commodities. Fans of Bill Bryson's travel writing will find plenty to love here. His keen eye for detail and delightfully wry wit emerge in the most unlikely places as he shares his story. He says a house is just full of surprises, and the historical significance of domestic spaces, phrases, and traditions are too often overlooked in our day-to-day lives. So, kind of an interesting sounding audiobook to me.
We can all relate to being at home now.
I know, everybody's spending a lot of time at home, so he took a look room by room.
So my next one is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is a New York Times bestselling memoir. Former First Lady Michelle Obama describes her childhood on the south side of Chicago, sharing a bedroom with her brother to the halls of Princeton, where she learned for the first time what it felt like to be the only black woman in the room. She describes her rise to become a corporate lawyer and meeting a young law student named Barack Obama. She follows that story from their dating life to 8 years in the White House. This is the story of Michelle, and it's narrated by Michelle, which is great. Her humor, humility, and uncommon candor makes her relatable and like talking to a friend. One part I read it, I didn't listen to it, but one part that left an impact on me is she describes dating Barack in the early years, and he picks her up in this car that has a hole in the floor, so she could see the road underneath them. So, and it's kind of fun to, I can kind of relate to that. I remember holes in floors of cars. This book has been made into a Netflix documentary, and Barack has his own book out now called The Promised Land that is available on Overdrive and Libby, but the wait is really, really long. So while you're waiting, you can listen to her side.
Yeah. Yep, I listened to that one. That was interesting. It's nice to have her voice telling her story.
Yeah, she's so relatable. I just really like her.
Yeah. My third pick, I picked a Christmas audiobook. It's a shorter one. This one only runs 6 hours. This is performed by Christina Traster, and this is called An Angel for Christmas by Heather Graham. So Christmas has never brought out the best in the McDougal family. Still, year after year, they gather together in the Blue Ridge Mountains to try to make the season merry and bright. But this year is especially strained, and they have never felt less like a family. Then, in the midst of a snowy sibling shouting match, a mysterious stranger appears. He could be a criminal, a madman, or something far more unexpected. Despite their fears and the growing danger in the dark woods around them, the McDougal family takes a leap of faith. Then another stranger arrives on the mountainside, and they don't know who to believe. One of these men can't be trusted, and one is about to bring Christmas into their hearts. So if that sounds like an exciting read, you might want to listen to this audiobook. Readers who enjoyed this book on Goodreads also liked A Christmas Revelation by Anne Perry and Call Me Mrs. Miracle by Debbie McComber. So shorter listening. 6 hours for this one.
For the shorter road trip.
Yeah.
My next one is another memoir. It is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah is also the narrator for this, and I guess it's hilarious because he's a comedian. Trevor Noah describes his coming of age during the twilight of apartheid in South Africa. It's a story that begins with his mother throwing him from a moving van to save him from a potentially fatal dispute with gangsters, then follows the budding comedian's path to self-discovery through episodes both poignant and comical. Told in a series of essays and not necessarily in chronological order, Trevor Noah tackles subjects on being an outsider, religion, education, gender roles, and more. Reviewers on Goodreads say it's well worth getting the audiobook version because of the humor and how Trevor Noah brings life to the characters he talks about. His narration of this won him the Audie Award for Best Male Narrator in 2018. Nevertheless, Noah's devoted and uncompromising mother, as voiced by her son, steals the show in this book. This one will make your road trip fun and maybe give you something to talk about, but you should be aware that there is swearing and domestic violence in this book, so if you're sensitive to that or you have kids in the car, this might not be the one you want, but if you don't have to worry about those things, it could be a good laugh.
That one has come up a couple of times from my short story group. They have liked that very much.
It runs on a lot of lists as good reading.
One of the better ones. My fourth pick for today is Next Year in Havana by Chanel Cleaton. This run runs about 11 and a half hours. And this was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. She described this book as a beautiful novel that's full of forbidden passion, family secrets, and a lot of courage and sacrifice. So the story for this one is, after the death of her beloved grandmother, a Cuban-American woman travels to Havana, where she discovers the roots of her identity and unearths a family secret hidden since the revolution. The book is told in dual narrative, so part of it takes place in Havana, 1958, where the daughter of a sugar baron, 19-year-old Elisa Perez, is part of Cuba's high society, where she is largely sheltered from the country's growing political unrest, until she embarks on a clandestine affair with a passionate revolutionary. Then the dual narrative, Miami 2017, freelance writer Marisol Ferreira grew up hearing romantic stories of Cuba from her late grandmother, Elisa, who was forced to flee with her family during the revolution. And her grandmother's last wish was for Marisol to scatter her ashes in the country of her birth. So she arrives in Havana, comes face to face with the contrast of Cuba's tropical, timeless beauty and its perilous political climate. So this sounds like an intriguing one to me.
Yeah.
This will be on my list.
Picks good ones.
Yeah, she does. So I think this would be a good one to listen to.
If you're a part of our short story club, you probably know this author. This is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I think that's how you say his name.
So
The New York Times bestseller is about a blind French girl and a German boy whose paths collide in occupied France as both try to survive the devastation of World War II. Marie-Laure lives in Paris near the Museum of Natural History where her father works. When she is 12, the Nazis occupy Paris and father and daughter flee to the walled citadel of Saint Malo, where Marie-Laure's reclusive great-uncle lives in a tall house by the sea. With them, they carry what might be the museum's most valuable and dangerous jewel. In the mining town in Germany, Werner Fenning, an orphan, grows up with his younger sister, enchanted by a crude radio they find that brings them news and stories from places they have never seen or imagined. Werner becomes an expert at building and fixing crucial new instruments and is enlisted to use his talent to track down the resistance. Deftly interweaving the lives of Marie-Laure and Werner, Dory illuminates the ways, against all odds, people try to be good to each other. So, a French girl and a German boy in World War II.
that's on my list of books to read someday, or
Mine
maybe it'll
too.
be on the audiobooks to check out someday. And my last pick is another shorter one. This is a 5-hour audiobook, and this is The Princess Diaries by Carrie Fisher. This is the last book from the beloved Hollywood icon Carrie Fisher, and it is an intimate, hilarious, and revealing recollection of what happened behind the scenes on one of the most famous film sets of all time, the first Star Wars movie.
Wow.
It is her third memoir and came out in 2016. So when Carrie Fisher discovered the journals she kept during the filming of that first Star Wars movie, she was astonished to see what they had preserved. Love poems, unbridled musings by a naive youth, and a vulnerability that she barely recognized. Before her passing, her fame as an author, actress, and pulp culture icon was indisputable. But in 1977, when that movie was made, she was just a teenager with an all-consuming crush on her co-star Harrison Ford. So she also ponders the joys and insanity of celebrity and the absurdity of a life spawned by Hollywood royalty, only to be surpassed by her own outer space royalty. Laugh out loud, hilarious, and endlessly quotable was how this was described. The Princess Diaries brims with the candor and introspection of a diary while offering shrewd insight into one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. This book is read by both Carrie Fisher and her daughter, actress Billie Lourd.
Cool. Well, thank you for watching, and we hope we gave you some good ideas for your next audiobook for a road trip, or if you're just around your house listening.
And don't forget to like or share our videos so other people can hear our great recommendations. Comment below about books you may have listened to during a road trip, or if you have a favorite audiobook. We love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.
Bye!
Bye!